Hi, my name is Dennis Seary. I am Executive Director and founder of the New York City Independent Film Festival, Independent in Spirit, International at Heart, and this is the New York City Independent Film Festival Meet the Filmmakers podcast. Join us while we meet this year's filmmakers. Thank you. Bye-bye. Hi, today's episode is with Ben and Andrew. Please introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good to be here. My name is Andrew Cardozo. I am the writer and director and producer of The Little Death. Ben, do you want to?
Sure, yes. Hello, I'm Benjamin Barrera, and I'm an actor in The Little Death.
Okay, so let's just start then. What made you want to be a filmmaker?
Yeah, so I've always loved movies, but I actually went to college for psychology. And I think I made it about a semester before I called my parents and was like, hey, this is great and all, but I got to make movies. And I think they understood. But no, I'd grown up doing, I had a love of photography, a love of theater. And then and I've always loved watching movies. I just thought I had to do something practical, quote unquote practical. And I started taking some digital video courses, started experimenting myself, doing my own little shorts and things like that. And finally took the dive. And now we're here. So glad that I did.
Yeah, I've always wanted to act in some way, shape, or form. There've been a lot of distractions, for lack of a better term, throughout, my life, wanting to be a surgeon, wanting to drive big tractors, that sort of a thing. But it always comes back to the acting version of that in some way, shape, or form. So I was that kid that was always like in the behind the scenes kind of discs on movies, especially the Chamber of Secrets, kind of just seeing how everything was done. I just fell in love with it as a little kid, and I just could not imagine myself doing anything else.
All right. My next question was how long have you been doing this, but you kind of answered that. But if you want to elaborate, you may.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, this is my directorial debut so it's a short film that we crafted together. I've written many scripts. I've done some short projects myself, kind of running around with my phone or like a DSLR. But this was the first time we said, okay, let's get an actual budget together and some great talent behind the camera, in front of the camera, and see what we can accomplish. So while I've been kind of on the periphery of the industry for a while, this was really my first big kind of step into making something that we could actually submit, not just something that I might show my friends as like a home movie or something on YouTube. So
It's always been something I've wanted to do, but I didn't really actively start pursuing this until 2015. I was a senior in high school, and people just finally convinced me to actually try acting, give it a go. And that was when I absolutely fell in love with it. And then it was that summer before college that I, brought my family aside. I was like, I don't know how to tell you all this, but I think I want to try acting. They're like, yeah, no, we see that. That makes sense. I'm like, oh, well, that was
Less
really
painful.
anticlimactic. Yeah. They're like, oh yeah. I was telling extended family, they're all like, oh yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Ever since you were a little kid, we thought that's kind of what you're gonna end up doing. I was like, well, that makes one of us. But
My next question was, how did your friends and family take it all? But you're in the middle of that, so go ahead.
yeah, continue, please.
And I mean, it was overwhelmingly positive. Family is just at least on my end, has been very, very supportive of the whole thing. They're always, go for it, go ahead, major in it, study it, we'll support you. Every now and then you get, professors here and there, or somebody will ask you what you do and you'll tell them, and there's sort of an edge of condescension when they're like, oh, okay, well, good luck with that. But for the most part, 99% of the time, the response has been overwhelmingly positive.
That's good. That's your lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that I think my family knew that it was going to be something that I had to pursue. It was that kind of, there's people that kind of approach filmmaking as a career, and then there's I'm not going to be able to sleep until I see the thing that's in my head up on a screen, And I think that's kind of the boat that I found myself in, where there's just not a moment goes by that I am not thinking about either the next project or the current project or the last project or what have you. So I think they've always been supportive, at least my family. I definitely had a couple friends in college that are like, are you sure you want to throw your life away? Like, you could still pursue business, that psychology degree, you've taken a couple courses, you could always switch back. And we didn't have a psych degree. I mean, a filmmaking degree at the college that I attended. So it was taking classes that were in line with filmmaking. So like playwriting courses or photography courses or what have you. So it was really self-taught. And then everything that I did, I would start shooting. I would do like a photography shoot for class. And then I would start taking video with a separate camera while I was there. Or I would write a play and then adapt it into a screenplay format as I was writing it. So I'd be doing twice the work. And I think my friends thought I was crazy. And probably still do, but when you've got the bug, you can't shake it. So
I guess my next question is, do you have a support group of filmmakers? Do you have your tribe of filmmakers that you see on a regular basis? That's, your go-to group, your tribe. Do either one of you have that, or both of you?
well, you're in LA, so
I was gonna say, like, I'm cheating at it a little bit. I'm lucky in the sense that a ton of the people that I went to like school with moved to LA. There's just not many city options, right, of where to go if you want to pursue this sort of a thing. And since everyone was based on the West Coast, they all moved down here. So there's a pretty solid group. We were actually just watching Terminator last week and hanging out. So there's always this camaraderie of like, how are auditions going? Oh, yes. Still trying to track so-and-so down for footage from that project. Yep, that kind of a thing. So at least for Los Angeles, there's very much we're all kind of in this together, just kind of marching on. I don't know about New Jersey.
no,
but...
not that. So yeah, Ben and I, I'm going to give a little background. We've known each other since we were 3 years old. I think it was high school that we really started talking about doing this together, where I had started having an interest in directing and you were talking about acting. And
you'd been doing a little bit more theater at the time. Like I'd come to see you in some stuff in high school and I didn't start until later.
That's true. That is true. I did. I was in front, like on the stage or in front of the camera before I was behind it. And now I can't imagine being in front of it. That's frightening. But yeah, the question, support group. Yes. I think you definitely get more weird looks when you say that I'm a filmmaker in New Jersey. At least where I am, and because I'm surrounded by a lot of, finance people from New York and what have you. And so I tell them I'm pursuing film and I get some weird looks, or I tell them the genre I'm working in and I get we only do dramas, and depending on the work that I'm currently doing. So there's a very interesting culture. I'm very lucky to have a very supportive partner. My girlfriend Brienne was our unit production manager on The Little Death and one of the producers. And so if I don't have anyone, I have her and I have Ben that I can always call up. And a couple screenwriting friends here and there, but predominantly when I tell people I'm a filmmaker, at least in New Jersey, I definitely get some weird looks. But you roll with that, you kind of just say, this is my thing and I got to see it through. So maybe one day I can have something to show you like, I can send you a link to something on your laptop or your phone or something. And you're like, oh, your name's on that poster. Okay. But we're not there yet.
Not there yet. Okay. All right. So what made you decide, I guess this is a question for Andrew. It sounds like you're the person. What made you decide to make this movie?
Man, I love the question, and I love it's funny, I love this movie. The story of the Little Death is a teenager who is forced to flee his home and ends up kind of beaten down and found by a group of prostitutes, where he's nursed back to health and finds himself falling for a young prostitute named Rose. And she, in contrast to our character Kurt, is very self-assured. She knows what she wants. It's a coming of age story in a lot of ways. And I think this story was really inspired by the idea that I was growing up too quickly. I used to wear the whole idea of, oh, you're so mature for your age, like a badge of honor. And I think I realized that I was kind of losing my youth in the process of that. And I was doing what society expected, or what I thought society expected of me, and not really finding myself. So I think having someone young who's self-assured, that knows what they want. I think Kurt in our story can learn a lot from a girl like Rose, and I can learn a lot from both of them. So it was really inspired by that conversation that I had with myself. And the story was, I think Ben and I were talking about it earlier, 5 years in the making. I had taken a graduate level course in screenwriting, like during a summer. I got no credits for it. But I was like, I need to do something. So I found like some local community college and took the course, and kind of had an outline for this script as a full-length feature. I then adapted it into a short fiction piece for a class that I was taking. Then it went into a screenplay format, then into an independent study where I wrote the full-length feature. And it sat on my desktop for about a year before a friend reached out and said, hey, let's make a movie. Do you have anything you've written? I sent her the script, and she's like, great. And now she was the lead actor in our piece, Jesse Gallagher. And I called Ben because I had written it and sent it to him like 5 years ago when I originally wrote it. And was like, hey, are you ready to do this thing? And that's how The Little Death was born.
There you go. Very slowly. And what did you think, Ben, when all this happened? When he sent it to you and said, okay, let's go.
Well, like Andrew said, it was sort of like a two-parter, because I got the original, which was a lot shorter. It was sort of just the latter half of what the final product has been. And I read it, and I did my thing where it's like, I'll just keep rereading like a line or going back and trying things in my head. And I'm like, that's how I know I get really absorbed in the thing. I start acting it out in my head. And I loved it. And then there was about a year and a half break. I can't remember what the math was that we decided on from when I got that call, but the general consensus from talking about this is that we didn't really understand quite how big this was going to get. We thought we were sort of going to make a kind of a glorified student film, for lack of a better term, like much smaller scale, and it sort of snowballed and got really big. So of course I was excited at the beginning, but I was like, okay, never done a film before. Let's kind of temper the expectations. And then seeing it from the other side, and especially first night on set, I was really quite blown away by how big it ended up getting.
Well, we had a cast and crew of like 40 people.
Yeah.
We
I was expecting we'd have like a camera,
man, some
like maybe a mic, somebody, at least one person that knows what they're doing, and then. But no, it was people were stopping on the street like 3 a.m. being like, hey, what's going on over there? Like watching. And I was like, oh, this is really cool.
We had a crowd. Yeah.
We had a crowd. This feels professional.
It was, it very quickly. And I think that part of the reason it snowballed the way that it did was because of the script. I wrote a script that took place at a motel, and half of the script takes place on the roof of said motel. And I don't think while I was writing it, I thought about the fact initially that I need to get a motel, you know?
That's one let you get on the roof.
Exactly, exactly. So that was a whole process. You know,
Funny story about that, yeah.
yeah, we were calling motels all over California, up and down the coast. I think I've probably called 75 different motels during that process, just like, hey, and you know, we'd get ghosted, or you know, we'd get to the final stages and then they disappear, or just a lot of flat out no's. But yeah, we finally settled on this one motel in San Luis Obispo, which was, you know, our whole cast and crew was in LA, and that's about 3-4 hours north of
It really depends what time you leave.
yeah, exactly. So then you have to, you know, you've got a cast and crew of 30 to 40 people, depending on the day, that you suddenly have to transport 4 hours north. So now you're talking about equipment vans, you're talking about, you know, electric, crafty, you know, just cargo vans just to transport the people, or
The truck.
You know, oh, the truck. Yeah. At the beginning of the film, we use it's a beautiful truck. It's a 1985 GMC. And I thought it would be a really great bonding experience if the director and our lead two actors drove this truck up together from LA. And so we rented this truck. I don't even remember the service that we used. Everyone leaves. We're the last to leave, and I go to start the car, and I hit the gas, and the car starts rolling backwards. And I'm getting closer and closer to this Prius that I'm almost backing into. And I'm trying to call the person that we rented it from. After about an hour, they finally got on the phone with me, and they're like, oh, I forgot to tell you the gas pedal is broken. You gotta, you know, hit it at this very specific angle. So we ended up being 2 hours late to our own project. We get there. We didn't know that there was an auxiliary gas tank. So we had refilled the wrong tank. We're out of gas by the time we got there and didn't know what it was. The car wouldn't start. So ended up trying to jump it. We're losing moonlight. The whole thing is night shoots. So we need to get moving. And it was a process. It was a, you know, it was a crazy time, but it worked out. We're here, right? So
you need a prop guy next time.
Next, anyone but me doing it as the director. You know, I think we learned very quickly that let them bring it on a truck. Let them do anything other than trying to drive the 40-year-old prop truck 4 hours north. You know, that just not my best idea. But you know, it was our first project. You live, you learn. And we learned a lot.
I was going to say
85 GMCs have an auxiliary tank.
There you go.
Who would have known? Yep. So
that's for certain.
My next question was going to be what was the hardest part and what was the most fun part? We kind of went through that already, but if you want to.
Oh no, we haven't.
We did not.
Oh no! All right, good. What was the hardest part?
No, so I met with a filmmaker. I met with a filmmaker friend right before we started, and he had given me advice when I first kind of was dipping my toe into the water filmmaking, and he had given me advice back then that I'll probably revisit later. But he's right before the shoot. This was like 6 years later. I called him up. He had me over for dinner and said, just know that Murphy's Law applies to a film set more than anything else. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. The object is really how you respond when things go wrong. So what started with a faulty truck, we had some extras who ended up getting high on set that we had to unfortunately send home. Then night 2, we had our cinematographer took a massive spill, ended up slicing open her middle finger on the camera and had to go to
Saved
the
the camera though.
hospital. Saved the camp. She did a great job saving that camera, but did not save her finger. Had to get 5 stitches. And had to send her to the hospital. We had a camera op step up and did a wonderful job and finished out night 2. And then our cinematographer came back on night 3 and said, I want to reshoot everything from night 2. And you know what? I appreciate the love of the craft and the really wanting to get your hands dirty and giving everything that you have to it. But in hindsight, that was crazy, because we still
Looks great though.
Oh, it looks so good. And but no, we had to do that. We were supposed to climb up on the roof using a dumpster. At the last minute, we lost access to the dumpster. So I figured out we could climb this tree and climb up onto the roof from that, but there was branches in the way. So I'm on the roof with a pocket knife, sawing branches off while we're doing the cast dinner. We had night 3. We had that guy try to fight us on set.
Yeah, 3 rounds.
Yes. Yeah. If you want to share that one, that was
Well, why don't you start? Because you're the one that actually,
had the
encountered him.
confrontation.
I'll tell you the view from the roof since you didn't get to see
There you go.
the.
We had gotten the proper permits and everything to shoot in San Luis Obispo to do night shoots. We weren't being terribly loud, but I guess we were being loud enough that a resident at a neighboring motel was not happy, and stormed onto set and got up in my face and told us to get lost. We were keeping him up, and we did the best that we could to apologize. And so we moved our crafty tables away from his window. We put up a light shield from his window, so hopefully we weren't reflecting in. He tried to get me to buy him a night at the nicest hotel in town, and really tried to twist my arm on it. And I was as accommodating as I could be. But he was very upset and made it very clear. I mean, came down maybe 2 or 3 times, interrupting a take and kind of hollering at us. But yeah, no, your view from the roof.
No, it was I'm just seeing all this from a distance, right? I'm not really called at this section to do it, so I'm just sort of standing watching the whole thing. But he's talking about my wife needs to sleep with the window open. We're right facing this parking lot. You guys are making all this noise. If I have to hear quiet on set one more time, sort of things. So at this point, it's 4 a.m. maybe. Jesse and I are sat on the roof doing the last scene. And in between takes, I'm looking over at this window. It's completely blacked out, but in the dark, you can see the tip of a cigar flare up and extinguish just like in Rear Window. And I'm this guy's sitting in the pitch black, just staring me down on the roof. I was just what is going on?
It's very cinematic.
I mean, it was fantastic. I'm sorry you missed it because you were on the ground with the monitor.
I know. Yeah, I was stopping traffic.
I'm sat on the roof shivering and cold. But so that was pretty hard.
Well, yeah, with night 3, because of those interruptions and having to shoot everything from night 2 all over again, we were coming up against, I guess, the delivery trucks all drive through San Luis Obispo around 4 a.m. And it's the big dialogue sequence of our piece that we're shooting on night 3. And I was so worried that we were going to have the audio interference that I'm wrapped in 2 blankets. I'm holding the monitor. I've got 2 headsets on, and I'm standing in the street stopping traffic, trying to slow it down these 18-wheelers so they don't move too quickly and barrel through, and we get the audio. So when you see, Ben and Jesse doing their incredible job on the roof, just know that there was a director somewhere standing in traffic,
risking life and limb,
holding the monitor, shaking. But and I think I cried at one point. But and that kind of transitioned into your next question. It was one of the most incredible things because we wrapped day 3. We got in the car. My dad had popped by set and he was incredibly supportive and would help set up Crafty and helped return that nightmare of a truck. But we were driving home and I just remember sitting in the car thinking these were the 3 hardest days of my life and I cannot wait to do it again. This was, I don't know if I can look at one moment from making this film and go, that was the moment that, you know, I had the best time, or it was such, and I can only take so much credit as the director. I really think that
and the writer and the producer.
well, no, I mean what I mean as is the vibe on set was incredible. Everyone was so kind and supportive. There was so much love on that set. There was, you know, I think a little bit of growing pains with day 1 as we jumped into something headfirst that we definitely bit off a little more than we chew. And I think once we settled into it, it was beautiful. I mean, we had just such a kind and supportive cast and crew. We had for the opening shot of the film, we used a jib, like a crane, and we had an all-female crane crew, which was so fun. And they did such a good job. It looks phenomenal. There's just so many laughs among the tears on my part. But really everyone rallied, everyone, you know, despite every hardship, everyone put in their all, and I couldn't have asked for a better, really, debut in a sense on set. Ben, did you have a best moment on set, or?
Yeah, I mean, the last night we shot the roof sequence, we were really running out of daylight. Strike that, moonlight. We're cruising in on sunrise and all of that, and we decided to try to do the entire thing in one take. And we're like, whew, okay, half asleep. It's 5 a.m., but let's do it. And it got stopped for, you know, various reasons, but we got pretty much through the entire thing. And it just, at that point, it was like night 3. I was comfortable finally on set in front of the camera. I was like, okay, cool. I know what we're doing now. And it just like, oh, it clicked. And in that moment, I was like, yes, this feels right. This is what I've wanted to do forever. Because at first, you know, the first couple shots, I'm like, I've never done camera work before. It's very different. There's like a thing like right here staring at me the whole time. But that third night with that first long take was when I really just like, I'm doing what I want to do. So that for me was definitely the favorite.
Great. I guess the next question is, you're never going to become rich from being an indie filmmaker. You may move on and not be an indie filmmaker anymore, but you're not going to become rich doing this. What would you consider success in the indie film world? What does success look like?
Yeah, right now we are definitely in the indie film world because, I mean, when you're making shorts, you're doing it for the love of the craft because you're not making money. You know, it's not like, oh, I sold my short to Netflix and now it's going to have a theatrical release. That doesn't, you know, whatever, that doesn't happen. Success in the indie film world, I think, is really judged by the art and the craft. I think it's about being scrappy. It's about putting your all into it. It's about, you know, creating something that people can connect with, that transcends the limitations of the budget. You know, I think not in terms of spectacle or what have you, but I think what I always come back to with filmmaking is the script. And I think when I first stepped into this, I thought I was going to be a director, and like a director first, a writer second. And I very quickly realized that I needed to be a writer first, a director second. Because no great film starts with a bad script. And it is really the foundation of everything that you build off of. So what success for in the indie film world, what that looks like for me is honestly touching as many people as you can with your film and then getting to do it again. I think that we're at such an interesting time in the history of kind of filmmaking, and I know there's a great interview with Matt Damon on that show Hot Ones, where he's talking about how the landscape of filmmaking has changed. And he talks about how he used to make a lot of kind of mid to low budget movies, and it didn't matter if you didn't make your money back during the theatrical window, because then you could then make it up during DVD sales. And that was a huge market. And then when we moved to streaming and no longer, like, oh, so many movies now aren't getting physical releases, that number just kind of fell off. So if it doesn't make its money back, in theaters, it doesn't get made. So we're seeing a growing kind of divide between, these mega blockbusters that are getting made for hundreds of millions of dollars and these tiny little projects that maybe nobody's heard of, or they don't have money to market it or what have you. But so I think word of mouth is big. I think getting it in front of festivals is a massive thing in terms of the indie film world. So if there's a barometer for success when it comes to indie filmmaking, I would say getting as many eyes on your project as possible and touching as many people as possible, and getting, I don't think it's about like a critics consensus or what number you get on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's about the people that you touch and the people that get excited to see what you're going to do next, and hopefully being able to do it again.
Granted, my perspective's slightly different, just from the performing side of things. It's not really like I'm actively seeking like a single like genre or like level to create. It's more like who will have me. But like, even like that aside, like, whether it be it indie or not, I think I agree with Andrew on the definition of success. I would just really like to, actually, my sister was asking me about this a couple of years ago, as to like ideally where I would want to end up down the road. And I was like, I think I would be really happy even if nobody knew my name, but everybody knew the works that I was in and loved like the piece as a whole. Like directing and writing is like, a bit more umbrella for the entire project, but like as a performer, you're more of like a cog, or like a gear and like a clock for the whole thing. So it's like, you don't have to be as well known within the piece for me in order to have that success, so long as you're part of, propping up the project as a whole, that somebody can fall in love with or is touched by it. So for me, it's very much getting to do this again, sort of a thing. Like you said, you're not going to make much, if any, money from doing like an indie film, or especially like a short. But so far, people have really connected with what we've done. And just like hearing that I'm like, okay, cool. They got out of it what I got out of it. So to me, that's kind of where the reward is, at least at this sort of indie level.
And that was the incredible thing about,
sense.
No, I think you got it. But I think the incredible thing with this film specifically is we made it to learn. The Little Death was, a group of friends, we got together and said, we all want to do this in our own capacity. Our lead actress, obviously, and lead actor both wanted to act. I wanted to direct and write and produce. And my partner is very, very detail oriented and very is able to view things at a bird's eye view that I just simply cannot. And so to be able to, we all wanted to stretch our legs and try something and really learn and work with talented people. And I always said, if just finishing the thing was a success. There's a quote that I love, and I'm forgetting who I can attribute it to, but the quote is, every film that gets made is a miracle. Every good film that gets made is the second coming. And after everything that we went through making The Little Death, I honestly believe that, you know, and I think that the fact that not only did we complete the thing, you know, we did what we set out to do. We learned what it's like to be on set. We learned what it's like to work with really professional and creative people, put our all into everything. You know, again, these were all night shoots. It was, there was about 72 hours where I just didn't sleep. You know, we obviously had breaks, but I just was so wired that during the day that I just couldn't put my brain to sleep. But we walked out of it, and, you know, this is our fifth festival. You know, we've won audience awards, you know, one for the best New Jersey film and another for at the Indie Street Film Festival, and then an audience award for our block for the Short Sweet Film Festival out of Cleveland. And all of that was not the reason we did it. That was all extra. You know, this was always about making the best thing that we could, and hopefully learning and touching people and making strong connections. And I can tell you that I didn't expect it. You know, I didn't expect it to have the legs that it did, the life that it does. But people seem to be connecting with it. And that's, for me, that's all the success that I could ever, you know, ask for.
Great. Well, thank you, guys. The only thing I have left is any final thoughts or words, but I think you kind of filled those in, but anything else you want to say? I
Pretty much the only thing
appreciate
like I would really like add to all this is just like with regards to like that, just like hearing back from like it's one thing for like us to have seen it and like have made it and all that, but it's nice to like, you know, like have conversations like this about it. And like we said, we didn't do it for like the awards or anything, but like hearing that like an audience liked it, because just like hearing back like, oh, people have seen it. It's just like it having other people be able to interact with something that we made, and like Andrew said, has its own legs now. It's really meaningful, at least to me.
Yeah, I think that in the final kind of stuff, thank you for having us. You know,
Yes.
we're so excited. Again, we said with awards, with selections, what have you, everything after just making the thing was extra. And I think Ben and I have conversations where we just kind of sit and go, wow, like this, we're here, you know, and it might not be like glamorous, or, you know, we're not doing magazine covers, but I don't think either of us expect that. I think we're so excited to be able to create together and build worlds that people can kind of step into, and that it seems to be it's kind of making the rounds. You know, we've had audiences in Ohio and LA and now New York, New Jersey. Our first festival was in San Antonio.
Very hot.
Yeah, about 110 degrees the week we were there.
90 at 11 p.m. with wind chill.
Yeah, that was rough.
So.
We're so excited to be doing this. We're very excited to be here, and hoping that we can connect with more people and they connect with the work.
it. Okay, great. Thank you, guys. Take
Thank
care.
you
Thank you very
much.
much.